Chapter 33. Javea and Kiki agreed not to leave the office until they had brainstormed some decent leads to follow up. The fact that the temperature outside was already touching 30 meant that the office was closer to 40. Agreeing to stay in this hot box indicated they really meant business. Kiki had already spoken to a few old school friends of Enrico and Hugo, the ones that she could trace from a school photo that appeared in the local newspaper just before the time of the killing. Their class had been selected for a foreign trip to Belgium as part of a cultural exchange, as well as to practice the French that the class had been building up over the previous 2 years. It was good news at the time. Good news always made it to the middle pages of a newspaper, especially a local one. Enrico and Hugo hadn't made it to the trip. One was dead, and the other locked up. There wasn't a great deal of information forthcoming from the people who were kids at the time and had added decades of life since. Memories from a few weeks ago were often sketchy. Memories from decades before had been altered, rationalised, or pushed back to the darkest recesses of the mind. One of them had spoken about money. Nothing specific, but he mentioned that money was always a hot topic of conversation in the Morrow family whenever he visited. It's strange what memories the brain conjures up when prompted. I had no idea that was in there. But when you asked a few questions, it arrived at the forefront of my head, the old classmate explained. Kiki recorded her calls so she didn't have to make notes, and a piece of software transcribed it into English and Spanish so she could upload the word-for-word document to the system. Javi had no idea how she learned so much about technology. She was 15 years younger, so must have grown up with it, he concluded. And that led me to look for the will, Kiki explained to Javi. I spoke to around 10 solicitors in the town before I found the one that had it registered. He has emailed me a copy. Fancy that, a solicitor that uses email. I didn't think I'd ever see the day. And it splits the entire estate of the mother in half. All the assets were in her name, none in the name of her husband. The property they lived in, one that they rented out in the hills, plus savings and investments well into the tens of thousands of euros. The thing is, nobody has ever claimed these possessions. The father and brother haven't showed up for years, and they haven't made a claim for their share of the money and assets. That feels strange, Javi said, wanting a coffee more than ever. When you took something away from him, he desired it even more. He made a pact to move forward before he left the room. He had to stick to it. So, where do we go from here? He asked. They both stopped in their tracks. This wasn't going to be easy.